Welcome to the Cherland podcast, where I, Connor Cherland, meet up with a musician, hear about what makes them tick, hear about what experiences they're bringing into their music, and maybe they'll play a song for us, who knows. But today, Hannah Connolly is a folk country singer-songwriter, great vocals, great storytelling. I heard about Hannah through Instagram as she played with a couple of the podcast guests, Sam Doors, Sam Gelband, and Alicia Blue. In this episode, you can hear us talk about learning to play guitar just days before a childhood talent show, processing grief, and how Los Angeles sometimes leaves you wanting to just stay home. And you can hear her song, Stay Home, later in the episode. Enjoy. You just finished work, you just got off, and then you hopped on this call with me. How was work? What do you do?
It was kind of a whirlwind, but it was good. I work in digital marketing, so that's my day job.
What does that mean?
It's digital marketing for e-commerce companies. Paid media like Facebook ads and emails, and it's a digital marketing agency out of Orange County called
Cool.
Human.
Okay. Yeah. That's a really funny thing to call a digital marketing agency.
Yeah, at least there's a lot of fun plays on words that comes up, I can't wait to see all the humans.
How long have you been in that job?
I've been there for about a year and a half.
And are you in charge of verbiage or the look of it, or handling clients?
Yeah, there's a kind of a team that I'm on that there's 5 of us, and we all kind of collaborate on paid media for a bunch of different clients, and setting up the ads and tracking them and adjusting the verbiage and emails and all that kind of thing.
I'm going to ask you one more question about this and move on, because I know you probably don't want to keep talking about your work, but
no, it's fine. I like my coworkers, and it's they've been a wonderful place to work because I do music and they've been super supportive, and
Cool.
It's nice to have that while you're trying to do music, to have a group of people that are super supportive and allow you to do both.
In the line of work that you do, what are the methods of communication that you find most effective to drive targeted behavior?
Oh, that's interesting. It really depends, I think, on what you're doing.
Right.
There's a lot of different kinds of businesses that we work for, and I guess the idea is just to make things as easy for people as you can. Give them something that helps make their life easier. We work for a lot of independently owned businesses. So it's nice because a lot of the people that we work with are starting their own businesses and really passionate about what they do. So you feel good because you're kind of helping the underdogs in some ways, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Humans helping humans. That's all
Humans
you can
helping
ask
humans.
For.
Yeah.
Tell me about how you got to LA. From you're Wisconsin born?
I am, yeah. Eau Claire. I got here in 2015-ish.
Okay.
I grew up in Eau Claire for most of my life. Moved to Minneapolis,
Nice.
Around the time that I was going to college. Kind of did school there for a year. I ended up taking a break to work on some music stuff and do some touring with a band that I was playing with, and then went back, finished out, lived there for a few more years. And then my parents retired to Arizona with my younger brother. And, oh, really? No way.
Yeah.
Awesome.
My dad's also from Minnesota, so.
No way. Awesome. But yeah, I came out after they were out here. I ended up moving directly to Arizona, and then kind of was splitting time between Arizona and LA for the first few years under some not so great circumstances. Needed to be close to my family, and so was kind of between Arizona and Los Angeles for a while. Kind of started setting down more permanent roots here in 2016 or 2017.
Are your parents retiring out in Arizona?
They are. They're retired there. So
Nice. Yeah, as are mine.
Oh, nice. What part of Arizona are they
kind
in?
of a similar timeline too.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, they're out in Lake Havasu City.
Oh, nice. My parents actually almost chose Havasu.
Yeah.
They were looking for a couple different places, and that was one of the options they were looking at. They ended up in Queen Creek, but they go there sometimes to visit. So
yeah,
cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, the retired game out there is insane. Just everybody, and there's so many. It's all the same story. It's everybody from the coldest place moving to the warmest place and they're like, isn't it so great on our joints? Doesn't that feel really nice?
You meet a lot of people from the Midwest. Everyone's stoked to not be shoveling snow. So that's nice.
Yeah. What was your transition from bordering Arizona and Los Angeles? Like what made you be like, now I'm going to move here permanently?
Well, I guess there's no way around the heavy side of the story get right off the bat. The reality was my parents moved to Arizona. They were retired, and my dad retired, and they were moving, but they chose Arizona because my youngest brother was in a power wheelchair, and it was a great place to be with not having the cold, and so that was kind of why they wanted to get to warmer weather. And I was back and forth for the first few years because my family lost my youngest brother to a car accident. A drunk driver rear-ended my parents, and so we lost my youngest brother, and I wanted to be close to home a lot right after that. That was the biggest reason that I was back and forth. It's interesting to think about what was the time that it felt right to put more solid roots down and kind of what that was. I think it was a little more time. I mean, there was a big court case that my family had to go through, which was really difficult because it was a drunk driver. And also, I might be getting the timeline slightly wrong here, but also like it started to feel like home in some ways. It started to feel like time to sign a proper lease and stop doing subleases everywhere. And it's close enough that I felt like I could still go home for short periods of time. I was working remote too, so it was nice to be able to go and feel like I could put down roots, but also still go home when I needed to go home. It was a very gradual process, and it's kind of like a blurry line as to when it felt like it was more like permanent, like this is where I live. But I guess it was when I first signed a lease. I signed a lease with some friends. That was kind of like, okay, this is my address. This is where I live now. This is my like home base, where I was kind of floating a lot before. A lot of different like subleases for like a month here, a month there kind of thing. It was kind of nice to be floating for a while in a way because of everything that was going on. Yeah, it was also nice once it was like time to put down roots. We were like, okay, we can hang stuff on the walls. Like, this is my room. This is my bed. This is my stuff. Kind of felt like a little bit more grounded.
Yeah. It is bizarre how much leases will move our life forward.
Yeah. It's weird. Like signing a piece of paper that's like, this is my place until it's not. It's kind of, weird. Sense of that.
Well, so sorry for your loss. I can't imagine that. That's incredibly difficult.
Thank you.
I appreciate you sharing, and I'm moving the conversation along so that we don't necessarily. I don't want you to have to rehash things you don't want to rehash.
I understand, and it's part of my life. It's something that I can't really avoid talking about if I'm going to be honest with people about like who I am and like where I'm coming from and what it's been, what my life is like. So I totally, understand. And I also, appreciate the like thoughtfulness in that way, which is really appreciated. I think I've gotten more comfortable talking about it over the years in a way. And I think it's helped me realize that there's a lot of other people that have gone through really difficult things like that too. And they're hard to talk about, so we don't always talk about them that much. But I think there's use in learning to be able to just say it, have it not be something that we're afraid to talk about.
That's great. As you were in between Arizona and Los Angeles, what ways or what methods did you have to gain community, gain friends? Like you said, you moved in with 4 girls, but in order to like, you would have had to know them beforehand. So like where were you finding these people and what were you doing when you were in between?
Well, it was actually kind of serendipitous. I always had wanted to move to Los Angeles, and I always had the idea of wanting to move there, even in Minnesota after college. That was my plan, was to move out to California. And I ended up becoming roommates, I think, through Facebook. I met this girl, and she was looking for someone to move into an apartment in Minneapolis. And I was like, oh, I'm looking for an apartment. And we became friends and roommates, and then realized that we were both at the same time planning to move to LA. All the timelines are kind of blurring in my head right now.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
anyways, the long story short, the friend that I was roommates with actually was moving to LA at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she moved here, we didn't live together in Los Angeles, but I did have like one really good friend that I knew in the city off the bat, which was nice, but only one person, you know, so in a
Sure.
whole city, like, and she had like a really busy social life of her own too. So like there was a lot of time that I was on my own trying to like figure out how to, you know, navigate a new city. And one of the biggest things that was helpful was kind of an acquaintance that I knew. His name's Ari. He kind of does a lot of music stuff in Los Angeles now, Ari Herstand. You know, he lived in Minneapolis for a long time too. And he was like, oh, you're new in LA. Like, he was super nice. Like, we had coffee and sat down. And he's like, okay, so like, here's the venues that kind of like match your style of music. And like, here's some of the places you should check out. And was just like really helpful resource in like getting an initial like lay of the land. He told me about Hotel Cafe and like Monday as a place to go check out that had a lot of songwriters playing and stuff like that. I used to go on Mondays by myself a lot of the time to this showcase, hear like a ton of songwriters like back to back. That was like really awesome and also super intimidating because there are some people that played on that stage and you'd be like, holy crap, like this person's amazing, you know? Yeah. Then later they become like, you know, at the time, I think some of the first artists that I saw there when I moved there were like Madison Cunningham and like JP Sachs and like Jensen McCrae, who are all now like doing amazing things and stuff. So it was really cool to like see that and then like watch from afar, like all these people's careers like grow and all their beautiful music and stuff like that. I spent a lot of time at Hotel Cafe and I met a lot of friends there, which was really nice. People were super friendly and everyone's kind of like similar interests and stuff. So there, and then I went to a couple open mics. There was one that was happening on the east side at like the Lost Night, I think it was called, for a while. There was a couple like songwriter meetups and then just like house shows that people would throw. I think those were kind of the biggest moments where I would like make new friends or meet people.
That's really special. I always feel so, I'm at Hotel Cafe tomorrow night.
Oh, awesome.
It always feels so intimidating. I like grew up in sports and like all competitive and when I win, you lose, etc. So there's like always that kind of a feeling for me while I'm in those scenarios. And I have to remind myself actively all the time, like these are people who have very similar interests to you. So if you like chat them up, chances are like you're gonna get along pretty well.
And most people are so nice, you know, and like society tries to like condition us to think that we're competing with like everyone around us, but like in a way it's like to me it's just become like so inspiring like to see people, you know, like doing their thing and just be like inspired and try not to compare and be like, oh, dang, I need to get so much better at guitar. I like remember watching Madison Cunningham and be like, I need to practice every day for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel that a lot.
It's just like, in a way, it kind of like pushes you too, like motivates you to like, okay, like these people are like really, you know, talented and like really, you know, bringing their all. Like I need to level up. I need to like also put all that work and heart and like love into this craft, and it's cool city to be in.
Definitely. I want to ask a bit more about your origin story. I don't feel like there's like a ton of information about like how you got into music like in the first place. Who got you into it? I mean, with a lot of people it's like I sung in the church band and then like I grew up and now I play on stages. What's your scenario?
My first like entry point into music was musical theater. My grandpa like was a big proponent of that. I was kind of like an obnoxious kid. Like I loved to like perform and like so I was like you know toddler. He would like stand me up in front of all his like pals and be like, Hannah, sing us a song. And he saw that I liked that and that I enjoyed like singing and that kind of thing. And so he kind of encouraged my mom to be like, you should let her try out for local theater and take her to, you know, put her in some girls' choirs and things like that. In Eau Claire, there's a theater company called the Eau Claire Children's Theater. And so I did some plays. I really loved it. And so I did a lot of that, which was kind of a good way to learn like music theory, or like, what does it mean to sing? How does it mean to sing with other people? How do you warm up your voice? Those kind of things. It was fun. It was like my first entry into music. And then I did some like girls choirs and that kind of thing. Did school choir and jazz choir and stuff in high school. And then I started writing songs probably around high school. Okay. My dad got a guitar. He actually got it to learn for himself. Actually, he was like kind of gonna, pick it up as a hobby and, teach himself later in life, which was pretty cool. And I saw it like sitting around the house, and I would like pick it up and mess with it sometimes, but I never was really like, oh, I'm going to play guitar. I'm going to learn how to do it, until I loved singing. And so I wanted to sing in our like high school talent show. I had a friend of mine, I was like, well, he was a guy friend, a year older than me. And I was like, will you play guitar for this song? And then I would sing. Cause I didn't want to do like the karaoke track, even though I did do that like in middle school. Like a lot of talent shows sung to like karaoke Avril Lavigne. But he was like, okay, yeah, sure. I'll learn it on guitar and then you'll sing. And then like, I don't know if it was like a week before or something, he bailed. No. And I was like, what? And I was kind of just like bummed. And I was like, well, if he can play it, like I can play it too. Like I'll learn it. Like I'll just learn how to play it before the show. And I like YouTubed how to play Bubbly. It was either Bubbly by Colby Calais or Both Hands. By Annie DeFranco. And I can't remember which one was the first song I learned. And then kind of like fumbled my way through it at the talent show. From there out, I kind of started messing with the guitar and trying to write my own songs.
That's so cool. What a make or break moment that you just passed right through. Good for you. There's so many dads in the world that would hear that story and be like, if only my daughter. And like just like praying that their daughter has that courage for like that moment, their shining moment, and you took it.
I don't know if it was a shining moment. I think the chords were probably pretty fumbly, but I'll take it.
But it's one of those things where like life gives you a few of these moments of like you have the choice to like excuse the phrase, but nut up or shut up. It's like to really try, or to just bottle it up and like hold that resentment inside of like what you could have been. And it's just so cool when someone does it, when they just like gain that courage somewhere, they find it somewhere and then they go. My dad is like the most corny guy in the world, and probably once every other year looks at me very seriously while listening to that song that's like, if you get the chance to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance.
Oh yeah.
And he looks at me very seriously and he's like, I do mean it. Like, if you get the chance, like my hope as a father is that you would do the thing, that you would dance. And Aww. He means it so sincerely.
That is so sweet. That's amazing.
It's really amazing. And it's also so funny because I'm like, wow, it's almost exactly said the same as the previous time. But we're 2 years later. It's amazing.
Oh man, that story or that song, actually, I did dance in high school, and like that song was like the biggest song that my dance coach like loved. Yeah. And so she would have us like before like a competition or something, we'd all like sit in silence and like listen to this song and be like, I hope you dance. So that's definitely ingrained in my brain as well.
I thought you were about to tell me that she made your dance routines to that song every time, and I was like, oh God, that is tragic.
That would probably would have been too far.
I'm so glad you also have the affinity toward that song. Is there any chance, while we talk about songs that mean so much to us, would you mind playing a song of yours that you're feeling at the moment? I messaged you about Meet You There, but honestly, like, you're a songwriter. You write a lot of songs. If there's something you're like really feeling, you're like, I'd prefer to do something else. You're welcome to play anything you want.
Okay, cool. I think I would want to play maybe Stay Home. it's ironic too, because we just talked about like moving to LA and what that was like and stuff like that. And this song was written about kind of that feeling where there was a lot of nights where I was like trying to psych myself up to go out and like meet friends and stuff. And as much as like there were really good nights, there were also like nights where they weren't so good. And there were nights where I was like, I don't think I have the energy for this. Like, I just don't want to socialize. And so that's what this song came out from, what it's about. It's called Stay Home. Maybe I'll sit up a little higher too so the phone can get the sound juice. Why do I put myself in crowded rooms time and time again, just to talk myself in circles, trying to pretend, but I'm so far out of orbit, fumbling for the words to say, not at ease in my body, always in the way. So I think I'll stay home tonight. It's a worn-out conversation, every question insincere, while their eyes ignore my answers to see who else is here. So what part of town are you in? Yeah, I think I've heard of it. So how's the record coming? I'm so tired of this shit. So I think I'll stay home tonight. 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 So I think I'll stay home tonight.
Woo!
Thanks.
Oh, how terrifying and relatable. Or all my worst fears, all my pet peeves. Just put them right in there. Nice. What part of town are you in?
You know, and the thing is, like, I hear myself saying that like out loud too sometimes.
It's like going to school and saying, "What's your major?" You know, it's like you have a major, and it doesn't cause any harm for me to ask it.
Exactly.
So I'm gonna get this ball rolling. As an adult, you need a few low-hanging fruits to grab.
It's true, especially for those of us who are like socially challenged.
Yes.
And in LA, there is certain things that, like, you know, even what part of town people are in says a little bit about who they are, like where they need to be close to, what they like, you know, I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, it's funny, like it's such a cliche, but then I mock it in the song, but I also say it all the time, so
yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. As you've made friends in LA, you don't have to do that as often now, I imagine.
You know, especially with the pandemic, I've been kind of like not really meeting anybody new.
We're staying home all the time.
Staying home all the time, exactly. So, but, you know, luckily, you know, my partner and I, my boyfriend, he lives with me. And so it's not super lonely. We live together. He doesn't live with me, but we live together in the same house. Yeah, he has like a good number of friends that he like grew up with too. Like in he's from Orange County, so a lot of his friends like moved up here. So it's been cool to like meet and like get to know all his loved ones and friends and stuff like that. We've been together for 4 years now, but that also
Cool.
became like another part of my community, like outside of songwriting and stuff like that. He's a good person, so he knows a lot of good people. Like I feel like people kind of just like-minded people find each other, and
Totally.
that's kind of been another source of community.
And we just want to make it very clear that you are paying the rent and he is just living there.
Absolutely
and
not.
He has a small drawer that we put him in, and then we tuck him in like
Oh
Dobby
my
at the end of the night.
That's
And,
just that's like epitome of like my social awkwardness like coming out. It's just like I say things and I'm just like that doesn't make any sense, but there it went.
No, it made plenty sense. It's
No, I moved into his place first. Like when I was living with friends, and when we moved in together into his place, and then in June we moved into a new place together that was like our own place.
Oh dang.
Like for
That's
the
big.
first time, which is kind of nice because it's like you get to kind of make it your own as a couple first, whereas like before it was kind of like it was really nice, but it was like not necessarily like ours from the start. It was like kind of his place, and it was like, oh, you mind making space in this closet, or what about this drawer over here? Like, so it was a little bit, different when you're moving into someone else's existing place.
Totally. That's really exciting. That's a really big deal. Moving forward in LA with music, what goals do you have on the horizon? What targets are you looking to hit? Like what are you hoping?
Well, I released my first album, my first like full-length album. The timing was not amazing at the top of like the pandemic, so didn't really get a chance to like do much playing or touring with that. Since then, I've been writing and working on another record that we just started recording, or we've been working on it in pieces, but we did the biggest piece of it the first week of January, which was kind of a cool way to start off the year. Like we went and spent 7 days recording up in Idlewild with 5 friends. Everyone kind of did the PCR test thing, and we did rapid tests and made a little pod and went and did a bunch of recording up there. So I'm really excited about all that stuff, and then I'm gonna try to mix and master that record and start releasing it this year. Cool. And play a lot of shows with it, and hopefully do some touring, God willing, with COVID stuff, of course, but would love to start tours of that record maybe as soon as the fall, but whenever life allows. I think that's kind of the immediate focus.
Great. What's the best advice you've received about your music career, or what's the worst advice you've received about your musical career?
Well, I think the best advice that I've been given is to like just focus on making great music and then finding your people. Mm-hmm. And I think that was something that sometimes like there's so much that everyone tells you should be doing, like, oh, you got to be everywhere. You got to be making constantly. You got to be bite-sized content, big-size, content, like, this like do all the things all the time. And I totally, want to be focused and make it as much of being engaging and like sharing the music with people. But at the same time, that was really helpful advice to kind of sometimes like narrow the focus down to like make the best record that you can make and then go from there. And try not to get super overwhelmed by all this other stuff that can be around. And then focus on, finding, the people that you connect with and like that resonate with you and what you're doing, and let that kind of help guide.
What books would you recommend, things that have meant a lot to you in the last couple years as you've like worked through the pandemic, as like bunch of life changes happened? What books have really stood out to you, or authors?
Books and authors. I would like to do more reading than I do lately, but I would say that a couple books that really stood out to me, like when I first moved to LA, some people might say it's like a cliche, but Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, Like
Okay.
that book kind of like shook me up. So
Cool.
I
What about it?
I was living, that was when I was in the floaty period of my life, like just working remotely and like living in different places for like a month or a couple months at a time. I was staying in this yurt in Santa Monica, like
Nice.
this outdoor in someone's like backyard was where I was living for a short period of time. And the girl that was living there before me had left this book on the bookshelf, and it was like
Cool.
literally like it's like one of those bell tents, you know? So there's like a mattress on the
Yeah.
floor. There's like a, you know, bookshelf. That's pretty much it. And so I kind of was like setting all my stuff up and like, you know, getting all settled and stuff in there. And there was no TVs in the house or anything. It was kind of like, you know, a place that didn't have a lot of the distractions and stuff.
Right.
Which for someone who's like looking to be distracted all the time was kind of a dramatic change of pace. I was kind of just like bored and getting settled in, and this book was sitting on the shelf, and I just like picked it up and I started reading it, like, and I just couldn't put it down. Just this idea of like learning how to be more present. I've been meaning to revisit it because I remember just like writing notes in the margins and like bookmarking pages and stuff. And I was like, oh shoot, like this isn't my book. And so actually the girl ended up coming back, and she was kind of like spiritual kind of about it too. And she was just like, I was like, you know, I'm sorry, like I picked this book up, it was in here, like, do you mind like if I borrow it? And she's like, no, I feel like that's your book now. Like, I feel like you should have it. And so awesome. It was super nice, and she was really sweet about it. But yeah, I just remembered like really like connecting with that at that time, like where I was at mentally. And I also really love Brene Brown. Are you familiar with her?
Yeah.
I think the first one I read was Braving the Wilderness.
Cool.
And that one was also kind of, it felt like similar themes, like learning to be okay on your own, learning to like trust in who you are, learning to like bring your most authentic self to people, regardless of how you feel like they might react. I really loved that book too.
Those are great. Well, that's like my second recommendation of Eckhart Tolle on this podcast, so I'm definitely going to.
Nice.
Yeah. I get a lot of book recommendations, and so my Audible is constantly just going through.
Cool. You should make like a list, a reading list.
I should.
I would check that list out.
I should. Yeah, Alicia. That was one of Alicia Blue's recommendations.
Oh, nice.
Was
I know her actually. So
yeah. So you did a show together at Hotel Cafe.
Yeah.
She's really sweet, really talented. Yeah, those are all the questions that I have for you, Hannah. Thank you so much for your time. You seem incredibly humble and strong. Yeah, it's such a pleasure getting to meet you. This is one of my favorite ways to like meet people. Is like I just get to have like an hour of like unearned conversation with you. So
cool. I'm glad you reached out. This was really fun and great to meet you too. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Great. Hope to see you around LA, and I'll clap us out.